I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, September the 18th. And looking back on last week, we had light fed cattle receipts sold negotiated anyway, but heavy feeder cattle auction receipts. A big week there, running 21% more head of cattle through the auctions than we did the same week a year ago. And as the market come up, guys were ready to sell, and we saw a lot of them move through and had a higher market right in the face of those heavier receipts. But you look at the board for last week, ending the week, live cattle futures for October ended at 107.75. That was up 43 cents for the week. October feeder cattle ended the week at 150.65, up $2.23 for the week. Our fat cattle trade was almost non-existent all week long, just a little trickle here and a trickle there, and through Thursday's sales, still less than 17,000 head had sold. But late Friday after hours, the cattle feeders had just dug in. They've got a negative basis that they're working with, and you want to get a cattle feeder hard to trade with, just take his basis completely away from him, and he will dig in and refuse to give up. And they didn't give up, and finally we had some trade late Friday. We have no idea how many had sold, but I'm sure it's going to be light. That'll be the third week in a row that we've had about half as many cattle sold negotiated as what we need to stay current. But had some 106 there late Friday, and in several different areas within the 5-area region. We had some Nebraska bleeding into Wyoming, had some Kansas, had some Texas, and the 106 was sure out there, and that would be over a buck higher. Box beef cutout values were slightly lower on the average of last week's trade last week, but good movement, so we're still selling that product, and it wasn't enough lower to really make a big difference. But I'd like to give a shout out to my new friends that I met over the weekend at Billings, Montana at the U.S. Cattlemen's Association Producers Forum there. Was able to speak on a panel there, and really met some good people and had a good time, and very informative, and learned that this small Cattlemen's Association, not working with near the dollars and really not as much influence as a lot of these other associations out there, but their voice is really carrying well up on the Hill in Washington, D.C. Got some key people in there working. They're talking to the right people. They're getting some things done. They're working on several issues, but none more important than working for the delay of the ELD or electronic logging devices on our bull haulers out there. That deal is just not going to work for hauling cattle, guys. It's going to completely screw up our system of marketing cattle, moving cattle across the United States, and interstate marketing and everything that goes with it. It's going to be hard on the cattle. It's going to be hard on your people that are trying to trade. It's going to be worse as far as picking up diseases as you're going. You're going to have to offload cattle in places where a lot of cattle are moving through, and we like to keep that down to a minimum. That deal just will not work. But late last week, it did pass the House in delaying that for 1 year on our livestock haulers, and now we've got to get it through the Senate. So pay attention. If you happen to know somebody that can make a difference there, if you want to call your senator, send him an email, do something to help move that along, because we just can't have those ELDs on these bull haulers. They can't go by the same rules as somebody hauling a box full of Frisbees or something. They've got live cattle on there. You got to get them to where they're going. It just won't work. A good friend of mine there has been hauling freight here the last couple of years. He says that ELD deal is just ruining the trucking industry. I said more often than not, you're having to drive when you're sleepy, sleep when pull over to the side of the road when you're not sleepy. You just have no freedom with that, and it's bad enough when you're hauling just boxes of stuff, but when you're hauling live cattle, it just will not work. But you look at the feeder market for last week. Your real-time index was up about $2.27 or $2.87 compared to the previous week. which goes along with your trend in the auctions of firm to $5 higher. Some of your lighter weight calves were as much as $10 higher, as the wheat country is really starting to get going, and the guys in the southern plains are starting to call in their orders to their southeastern calf buyers and tell them to put some loads together and send them their way, because they've got wheat to graze, they've got places to turn them out. But you look at an individual quote late in the week there in Lexington, Nebraska on Friday right before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Had a big slug of heavy steers, 485 head of them, weighed 887 at 155.75. That's your feeder flash for Monday.